all you wild hobbits out there. It's your two favorite uncles back here for Cinephellas. I am Logan Myers. That's my good mate over there.
And I'm Henry Hill, and we are back tonight talking about another entry in the Lord of the Rings saga. We've talked about, the show that's been on recently from Amazon Prime series that we both enjoyed, especially the second season. We finished binging and reviewed that. We love the movies, of course, specifically the first three from Peter Jackson. A lot of spin-offs coming. There's a Gollum movie coming with Andy Serkis returning as Gollum, so that'll be interesting. But this time for the franchise, a franchise first, going the animated route for the Lord of the Rings. And tonight we're reviewing the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim.
You should be.
That's right. These two wild hobbits are back here talking more Lord of the Rings. You're talking about Rings of Power. We just reviewed on Amazon. Love that series so far. Looking forward to the next season. Of course, the new Andy Serkis movie coming out and all the original movies, all these years later, being huge fans of this and Tolkien's work. But this time around with a brand new film, War of Rohirrim, this takes place 2 centuries before, the Hobbits and Gollum and all them are looking for a ring. This
Yeah, telling us an all new story. Something that we've heard about in the movies before. Helm's Deep. We've always heard that phrase, and in this one, you understand why it's called that now. This is that story. It's about the House of Helm Hammerhand. Helm Hammerhand, played by Brian Cox. Basically the legendary King of Rohan, and you learn why he's a legend in this movie, and it's quite impressive. I did enjoy this story and was invested in it pretty heavily. Right away, noticed that this animation style is more anime, so that threw me off right away. I didn't know that it was going to be in that kind of animation style. Once it got going and everything, it was fine though. I was invested in the story enough not to let that bother me too much. Although I do think that the film, the animation style, I would have preferred something to look different. I thought it could have looked really awesome in a different animation style, but it's personal preference, I suppose. What do you think of the animation?
I mean, when I saw this in the big screen a few weeks ago, it threw me off. I didn't know it was like anime, like animation. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I didn't know that. So it took me a while to get, used to the animation. After that, I didn't really notice anything, it's just not
Hmm.
my favorite style of animation. I don't follow anime or I'm not a fan of it in general, but I thought it looked okay in this movie, but it just kind of threw me off at first. But once the movie gets going, introduced to these characters and battles and everything else, yeah, I didn't even notice it.
It definitely delivers. If you're looking for a new adventure in the Lord of the Rings universe, this definitely delivers. It has all those battles. It has, the relationships between Helm and his daughter, Hera, who is the hero of this movie. After all, it's all about Helm Hammerhand, but Hera is your main character here, and by the end, she really proves that she's a force to be reckoned with too. Whereas Helm has sons, but it really is Hera who comes in at the end and is the hero of the story. And you learn all about this Wulf, who's a ruthless lord of Rohan, and Wulf and Hera have a history together. So you kind of see Hera as a little girl and Wulf, they're around the same age, and they used to, sword fight and, you know, do that sort of stuff when they were younger. And actually, Hera and Wulf were sword fighting, and she cut Wulf on his face. And that kind of, comes back later on in the story to the end because Wulf is, turns out to be a bad person who wants to take over, and basically he wants to be the king. And it's going to take Helm and it's going to take Hera to stop him.
That's right. And that sets up a really, really awesome villain, Wolf, in this movie. He plays his son to Fricka, and Fricka and the king get into a fight begin like early on in the film. And then of course Luke is wants to get revenge against the king and wants power. And you see him grow up as a really bitter man and isn't up to any good and really wants to take out and be the new king essentially. And That's pretty much the setup of it. And Hera, which is voiced by Gaia Weiss, she's Emma Thompson's daughter, which is I thought was pretty interesting.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, but she plays the character, and she really was a really awesome hero, really awesome
Yeah.
character in the
Yeah,
film.
she was. She was a great protagonist for this tale. Speaking of all the battles and whatnot, I love the elephants. They had those elephants that I remember from the movies. Really, some really cool action scenes. Everything that you'd expect in this universe. We do see some orcs here. We see some crazy looking creatures. We see a big, huge tree creature. That was a really cool thing. It's like this big octopus basically that came up. And then, after it was done attacking, it went back down and it had a tree growing like on its back. So, everybody coming up just thinks it's part of the woods, the forest there, but it's actually an octopus underneath that. That was pretty cool. So some clever stuff here. You get a lot of sword fighting. You get the whole scene where Hera gets kidnapped and they have to break her out. And, all of Rohan is also at their disposal too. So they have a lot of soldiers that are looking to protect Hera and to help Helm, who is the king here. But, with Wulf being clever and, he's seeking vengeance for the death of his father, like you mentioned. So he has this whole scheme of kidnapping Hera, and eventually he wants to, take and be the king of Rohan himself, and he's going to have to go through Helm. And we really learn that Helm is quite the warrior here and has some awesome scenes with him.
We find out the meaning behind Helm's Deep too, which I thought was pretty cool. How it got the name. Obviously, we know that from Lord of the Rings films, but I thought that was really cool. Obviously, some nice guess callbacks, even though this takes place before those movies,
Hmm.
some characters and some places without giving too much away. But I will say there's some wizards that show up in the movie. I thought that was probably one of the better parts of the film. And obviously, the third act, which is awesome with some awesome action and fight scenes, and orcs showing up in this in a scene or two. I thought that was
Hmm.
pretty cool. But it was more of the humans, more or less. There's a lot more humans
Yeah.
in this, which compared to like elves and others, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I loved Brian Cox as, Helm. That was great voice. He's got that booming voice, that commanding voice. You can imagine him being this legendary warrior. And yeah, we loved him in Secession, obviously, and he was great in this. I love that he led this for the most part. He definitely has that voice of a king, and he really does great. Hera, Gaia Wise, Miranda Otto, Luca Pasqualino. A lot of these, a lot of unknowns for me, but I thought the cast was great. The voice work was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie more than I thought I would. I thought it would just kind of be filler here, but this was cool to find out why they call it Helm's Deep, to see this siege in Rohan and see all the people of Rohan really come together and fight off Wulf and all the bad guys that came along the way. And to see those familiar faces who we know, who eventually 200 years after this story, we came to know from the movies and stuff, show up in a surprising and nice way, not to just like force it on you, but to, service the story here. So I had a really great time with this movie. And, it didn't do too well at the box office. I feel like they didn't really market this too much. It was kind of put out there and kind of forgotten. This would have been better served in streaming. It should have just released straight to streamers here. I think this would have worked better.
I thought it looked beautiful on the big screen. I went to
Yeah.
a screening like early on like Tuesday or something. There's two other
Hmm.
people there. So it's basically the movie theater to myself and just the speakers, surround sound, everything. I thought it really added to this
Was it
world.
awesome?
I
Yeah.
saw Lord of the Rings, didn't know too much about it, but I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go see it. I love Lord of the
Hmm.
Rings. So really great time at the movie theater. And yeah, definitely a lot of people didn't know about it. Big part had to do with the marketing. I knew about this movie from like Instagram, like an ad or something. Oh, didn't know about that. So I'm glad I saw it. It was a fun watch. It was a really great story in this universe. It's a massive world. It takes place a few centuries before all the other stories with the hobbits and much, much more. But some characters show up along the way and really great time. Animation was pretty interesting, caught me off guard, but just a minor nitpick. Everything else is really great. Voice cast, all the animation, story, cool ending, cool characters. And with that being said, I'm going to give Lord of the Rings War Rohirrim. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. Brian Cox hair pieces.
Kenji Kamiyama. That's the director of this movie. Anime, I wasn't expecting it, but by the end, it worked for this film. I thought it worked pretty well by the end of it. I was invested in it. I would like to see more animated stories. I mean, they could do a lot in this world, more, and deliver it probably sooner than a live action. You could imagine all the all the production that they'd have to do on these films, just massive. And, they can do it obviously easier in the animation side of things and all the creature designs and all the fights and everything. It was really well done. I really enjoyed this. I watched this at home. I didn't get the theatrical experience. I wish I would have been able to see it in the theater, like you said, with all the sound and everything. It would have, I'm sure it would have been amazing. So they should have marketed it a little bit better. I didn't really hear anything about this either. I knew it was on the calendar, so I knew that it was coming, but never really saw any trailers or anything like that. But now it's available to stream at home, and we both recommend that you guys check this out for sure. It's definitely worth your time and had a great time. Loved all the battles, animation, the sound, like you mentioned, was phenomenal. Some cool fight scenes, some gory parts, some blood. They, don't shy away from violence in here. And, it's definitely a worthy story in this Lord of the Rings franchise, the War of the Rohirrim. So, with that being said, I'm going to give the War of the Rohirrim, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 Hera hair pieces. Hera today, gone tomorrow.
No kidding. Not your hair pieces out there, folks. So I want to hear from all you wild elves out there. What did you like about Lord of the Rings War Pro Hero? What didn't you like about it? What's your favorite Lord of the Rings flick? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out these wild orcs on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and our website, Cinephellas.com, for latest, greatest TV, movie news, and reviews.
Thank you guys so much for watching our review of The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. And until the next battle at Helm's Deep, I'm Uncle Henry Hammerhand.
Please only call me Uncle Helm moving forward. Till next time, cheers.
Cheers.